Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the MCU Perspectives, Zombies Edition. And today we're going to be discussing the fourth and final episode of Marvel Zombies Season 1. So, previously on Marvel Zombies. So, in an attempt to try and get a spaceship in order to bring the subspace transmitter to, outer space, Kamala and her friends wound up going to New Asgard where they hoped to take one of their ships. Unfortunately, upon arriving, they found that their enemy, the Scarlet Witch, who had pronounced herself the Queen of the Dead, had already infiltrated New Asgard under the pretense of giving them supplies, when in reality, what she was feeding everybody was zombie flesh disguised as actual food. As such, the group tried to make a getaway, though in order for them to make this escape, Thor had to sacrifice himself. However, before the group were able to leave, the Scarlet Witch wound up telling Kamala that she needed her for whatever her plans were, as she claimed that she had somehow managed to basically overcome the zombie virus that had infected her mind, and that in order to cure the rest of the world, she needed extra power, and that someone was getting in her way. Irregardless, Kamala wasn't listening to any of her shit, and so she and the remainder of her friends got away, though unfortunately the Red Guardian was lost in the battle, as he had unknowingly consumed some of the zombie flesh. Either way, the group managed to get out of bounds of the Earth and basically the energy field that was blocking all signals in and out, off and on the planet, and so they were able to use the ship's transmitters to send out the subspace signal. And of course, the group thinks that this will be exactly what they need, as they think the Nova Corps will pick this up and provide aid, only to find that the Nova Corps was already there, as they are fully aware of what's going on Earth, and they have quarantined the planet. To try and make sure the zombie virus doesn't spread, basically if anyone gets off planet, they sterilize them. I.e., they annihilate their ship and everyone on board. Which is actually where this episode begins, as we see the group basically trying to outmaneuver the Nova Corps ships as they're trying to shoot them down. And unfortunately, it's a losing battle, as they are basically breaching the hull of the ship, and while Kamala is able to use her light powers to block up any holes that appear, well, unfortunately, she can't cover everything, and eventually the battle ends in failure. Their ship is destroyed, and the only reason that no one dies is because Kamala was able to put them up in a force field, and unfortunately that doesn't save them because, well, they're still close to the Earth, and so the planet's gravitational pull pulls them right back down to the planet, where unfortunately the re-entry into Earth's atmosphere causes Kamala's shield to break completely and makes it look like that everyone's going to take a very high dive into the ocean, which would be fatal under certain circumstances, but thankfully aid arrives in the form of the sorcerers of Kamar-Taj, as the sorcerers end up opening sling rings that save everyone and bring them to Kamar-Taj. And it's a rough landing to say the least, but everybody does make it back in one piece. As such, the group ends up meeting up with not only the sorcerers of Kamar-Taj, but the other survivors from the original Marvel Zombies episode, i.e. Spider-Man and Scott Lang, and it's here where Kamala and co are actually given the 411 on what the Scarlet Witch's plan is. You see, when she talked about that there was someone that was stopping her grand ambitions from, healing the world, she wasn't talking about Kamala. You see, going back to the incident 5 years prior, the one where the Black Panther sacrificed his life in order to stop zombie Thanos. So, what I originally believed was that when the zombie Thanos had been destroyed, that he wound up releasing the energies of the Infinity Stones, and those energies basically coated the entire planet. Well, I was half right. You see, when Thanos was killed and the Infinity Stones were destroyed, they were consuming everything. The energy was just expanding exponentially and pretty much annihilating everything in their path. If nothing was done about it, then the Earth would basically be destroyed. So the sorcerers of Kamar-Taj called someone who they believed would be able to contain all that energy. And that person was Bruce Banner, who apparently survived his battle with the Scarlet Witch back in the What If episode. But so what they did was that they brought him to the eye of the storm, so to speak, where the energy had started, and well, his gamma irradiated body absorbed all the energy of the Infinity Stones, every last bit of it, until he basically became a fissure for the stones. Basically, his entire body was made up of this infinite cosmic energy, and he's now the only thing holding it back. As such, the world was saved, but again, the end result of that were that the energy output from Wakanda is what blanketed the whole world, and now the only thing holding that power back is the Hulk. As he's still right there at the epicenter of the Wakanda event, and he's just unmoving. He's literally, like I said, he's the only thing holding this energy back, and and the energy has so subsumed him that the thing that we see is neither Bruce Banner nor the Hulk. It's something different. For the sake of convenience, I'm just gonna call him Infinite Hulk, because let's be honest, that's a badass name. Either way, he's the one holding all that energy back. And it's that energy that Wanda wants. After all, she thinks that she can heal the world. Her reality warping powers already cured her mind, as she put it, even though she's clearly still a few screws, still a few screws loose up here. But she needs the power of the Cosmic Hulk in order to complete her vision. Basically heal the world, as she puts it. But the problem is, it's the Hulk. The Hulk was already an unstoppable force before he got all that energy, and the fact that he is still standing, despite the fact that he took on Wanda one-on-one in the initial What If episode, does mean that in a fair fight, Wanda would get creamed. Well, that's where her army comes in. That's why Wanda has been building an army of the undead. She wants to unleash a legion of the undead on the Hulk, as while he may have all this infinite power, he is still tethered to one place. He may have cosmic power, but he doesn't have cosmic awareness, and unfortunately, he can only focus on so much at a time before even he gets tired. So what she basically wants to do is that she wants to overwhelm him with an army of zombies, and then when he's been weakened enough, she's going to go in for the kill, so to speak, and steal the cosmic powers for herself. Which, yeah, considering how unhinged that she's been throughout this entire thing, and how she's been more than willing to sacrifice people to get what she wants, it is very much clear that Wanda is not in her. It's very much clear that her having that power is a very bad idea. As such, the Sorcerers of the Sorcerers of Kamar-Taj and the other survivors just ask Kamala and Cove if they would like to help in this battle, as they know they've been through a lot, but right now they cannot let Wanda get all that power. But though they do admit that that if they say no, they won't force them to, so they do give them time to think about it. And, well, Kamala is not taking things well, as the weight of everything that has happened so far is really starting to bear down on her. After all, the whole reason that she began this quest was because she had the slimmest of hopes that she would find some way of ending the zombie plague. And basically that slim chance was reduced to zero when she saw the Nova Corps surrounding the Earth. She genuinely is beginning to wonder what the point of all this was. She has lost friends, loved ones, to this plague, and now she has nothing to show for it. She just doesn't know what to do at this point. What's there to fight for? She doesn't know how to stop the zombie horde. She doesn't know how to fix everything. She's just scared, and you can tell that she's almost ready to just break. Ultimately, though, the thing that convinces her in the end to keep going is Shang-Chi, as he goes up to her and pretty much just tells her that regardless of how things are going, regardless of the transmitter being a bust, there still has to be hope. After all, despite the fact that Thor had pretty much been beaten down so bad that he had given up everything, he still rose up and fought alongside Kamala when he needed to. The thing they were originally fighting for may have led to nothing. But that doesn't mean that all hope is lost. They're still out here. They're still fighting. And if they go down together, they at least go down doing the one thing they want to do, trying to save the world. And as such, this does allow Kamala to get a second win, as she agrees to come along with the sorceress, and the rest of her friends do end up agreeing to go too. As such, we then cut to the Infinite Hulk as we see him just kind of basically not really leaning down, basically crouched in front of the giant spire of energy that's from Wakanda, and basically coming to meet him is the Scarlet Witch and her horde of zombies, and basically to put it one way, that it's a slaughter, but not for Wanda, as her hordes end up rushing right at the Hulk. and he smashes them without even breaking a sweat. I'm not even kidding, because you really have to think about this. This is the Hulk imbued with the powers of the Infinity Stones. He basically just wipes away her army with just waving his hands. The zombie abomination tries running at him and tries punching him, and he delivers the punch back, and the force of it ends up destroying the abomination and sends hordes of other zombies flying. And as more of the army come at him, he just waves his hands everywhere, and they just go flying. And Wanda tries unleashing giants on him to crush him. He just basically rips the giants apart by just holding out his hands and just doing this. He doesn't even have to touch him. She tries dropping the raft on the Hulk, which, yeah, minor rumination. I was wrong. It's not the Triskelion, it's the raft. I do not know why I made that mistake. They're both prisons in the Marvel Universe. It's my fault. I'm sorry. But yeah, basically she drops the raft on him along with all the zombies in there, and they start ripping at the Hulk's flesh, and he still just destroys the raft and everyone in it. And the wounds even start healing. And after that, Wanda begins bringing out the forces of New Asgard as they arrive on the scene, and then basically try shooting him with lasers, and they do get a reaction, but he once again starts resisting. He's putting up a good fight. But unfortunately, Wanda's plan is actually working, as he does start little by little kind of getting worn down by all the attacks, as he can heal himself rather quickly, but that doesn't really do anything when the attacks are relentless. And as such, Wanda does take this opportunity to get in close, and does almost urge the Hulk to give her the power, since in her words, it's a burden. But that's when the heroes arrive on the scene, as the sorcerers open up a sling rings to allow everyone to jump through, and they're able to push Wanda back. As such, the heroes basically mount a guard around the Hulk, as they basically make it clear they cannot let her get anywhere near the Hulk. And, well, that's what leads to the second wave of the battle, as Wanda once again unleashes more hordes of her zombies on the group, and they basically just start slicing through them lickety-split, just chopping them to bits, hitting them with explosions, causing their heads to blow up. Spider-Man webs up a bunch of them and rips off their heads, while Scott basically just charges right through him because he's a freaking dome head. We got Kamala using her light energy powers to just knock them all aside. We have Blade literally slicing and dicing zombies with almost little to no effort. It's, honest to God, just so badass. They even managed to take out the New Asgard forces by using sling ring portals to send their lasers right back at their ships. And as such, while Wanda does try to convince Kamala to come to her side, because apparently she needs her for something. I don't know what it is, even after everything that goes on. I'll talk about that later. But either way, Kamala is still telling her to pound sand, that she cannot believe that what Wanda wants would save the world, and so Wanda has to rededicate herself to trying to stop them. And so while the heroes are doing well, and they even take out a couple more of Wanda's trump cards, as she brings out zombie Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, who both try to use their growing and shrinking things to try and get in their way, which results in them getting sliced and crushed. But eventually, though, Wanda brings in the heavy hitters, as she ends up bringing in Thor. Yep, for all his fighting, unfortunately, Thor fell as well. He is now part of the zombie hordes, and guess what? He still has his control over lightning, as he arrives on the scene, annihilates two of Kamar-Taj's sorcerers, and then ends up summoning Stormbreaker right to his hand. So this isn't going well. And to add further emphasis to the we're fucked pile, he ends up calling down the lightning and annihilates Blade. Yay. But yeah, things continue going worse for all the heroes as well, as to try and basically pour salt on the wound, Wanda ends up calling a few familiar faces to try and get the group, and the end result of she ends up calling these zombie versions of Yelena, Kate, and Riri to go and attack Kamala, which ends up fucking with the girl something fierce. She ends up bringing out the zombified versions of Shang. Hold on one second. Sorry, blanked on her name again. Basically she brings out the zombified remains of Shang-Chi and Katie's Katie's teammates, who are basically just giant, who are basically not giant, but they're basically just giant. No, I stopped saying giant. They're floating slabs of zombified meat that are basically trying to charge at the two. And while the pair have the power of the 7 rings on their side, they're not doing so well either. And well, unfortunately, even Spider-Man and Scott end up kind of getting sidetracked because Wanda brings in the zombified Hope Van Dyne, and neither Spidey or Scott can bring themselves to hurt her. And so she ends up overpowering them and is fully intending to eat them. So yeah, things are just getting worse. Kamala is able to ultimately overpower her zombified friends, and as for the Hulk, well, he's actually able to put up a good fight against Thor. And while it's clear that Thor has a better chance at beating the Hulk and the other zombies, it's the Hulk with the power of the Infinity Stones. He actually does manage to beat back Thor until he eventually manages to get him on the ground and then pound his face right into the dirt until it's basically nothing, until there's nothing left of it but just a crushed skull, essentially ensuring that Thor's not getting back up. So at first it looks like things are going to go well, but it turns out all of this is exactly what Wanda wanted. As while everyone was distracted with the fighting, she teleported right up to the Hulk and basically just grabs at his chest and starts absorbing his cosmic powers. So, yeah, everything's kind of been for nothing. And Kamala tries running up and tries using her powers to try and fight Wanda, but she still has the power of the Infinity Stones on her. She has the power of the Infinity Stones in her. She can't get hurt. And once more, she tries imploring Kamala to stand with her because she saw this moment going, but if she wants to remake the world, she can't do it alone. And that's where apparently Kamala comes in. I don't know why it has to be Kamala specifically. Again, they don't really specify it. Maybe it's because of her light powers. I don't know. Point is, basically, Wanda tells Kamala that if they keep fighting her right now, if they try and stop her, then everything that they have done will have been for nothing. All of her friends will have died for nothing, and everyone on the battlefield right now will die, and Kamala won't be able to save anyone. And Kamala does not want to hear any of this. She's trying to drown Wanda out. But as she looks around the battlefield and sees everyone just struggling to survive, barely holding on, screaming in pain as their dooms are basically staring them right in the face, Kamala breaks. She just breaks. And she finally decides, enough's enough. This can't all have been for nothing. And so she looks to Wanda, who had her hand extended to Kamala. Well, Kamala takes it. And thus the cosmic energies flow through the good Miss Khan. The pair of women are enveloped in light, a light which begins encompassing the Earth, and, well, the Earth itself seems to erupt in a massive explosion that spreads across the universe. And in the next instant, Kamala's home. She's back in her bedroom. The sun's in the sky, and she can hear her mom calling her from downstairs, telling her that her friends are here to see her. And when Kamala wakes up, she's overjoyed. She runs downstairs, and sure enough, waiting out by the front door are Riri and Kate, both alive and well, not zombified. And Riri just pulls the pair in for a hug, overjoyed to see them again. And thus, the three ladies go out into New York and just all share some boba together. Riri thinking that enjoying this thing, claiming it's like she hasn't had it in 5 years, which confuses her friends because they just had boba the day before. But Kamala is more than happy to just have a nice, normal day out with her friends. Nothing dead, nothing trying to kill them. All she wants to do is just enjoy a day out. Maybe go on a subway crowded with people. And so it looks like things actually did go well. That Wanda did deliver what she promised. But then the three girls see a guy arrive to a restaurant across the way. And when he takes off his helmet, because he was riding on a motorcycle or a jet ski, I don't know which one. Not a jet ski, moped? I don't know vehicles. I'll probably remember once the video's done, too. But basically all three women look to him and think that he looks like a real meat cake, a real beefcake. Only for a brief second, a zombie stands in his place, which Kamala notices. And she looks around the area, and for very brief instances, everything changes. The bright sunny day is replaced with a derelict and destroyed New York, and all the people that are walking the streets, in their place are zombies where they stood. And in the middle of it all, so Kamala sees someone, a familiar face. Now, I'm probably wrong in this, but it looked like Riri, because as she seemed to be wearing at least like the Mark I Ironheart armor, or at least the armor we saw her in wearing in episode 1. Though it could have been someone else. I didn't get a good look at this character, but basically this girl is fighting zombies, and she's calling out to Kamala, telling her that she can't give in, she can't be fooled, because everything she's seeing is not real. But as soon as she says that, everything seems to go back to the bright and shiny day, but Kamala still saw it. She begins hyperventilating. She's scared. And Kate and Riri notice and ask Kamala if she's okay. And that's where the episode and the season ends. So yeah, that was the final episode of Marvel Zombies. Now, on a personal note, I actually think this is a really damn good finale. In many respects, it feels like a proper finale for an MCU project. Grand stakes, the heroes uniting and assembling to face a great evil. Everyone coming together and basically just kicking ass and taking names the way they do best. A lot of genuinely awesome moments that I think could go down in MCU history. Infinity Hulk, the heroes facing off against zombies. Zombie Thor, for crying out loud. The moment when Kamala and Wanda kept having their little back and forth, the moments where Kamala and and Scarlet Witch, I called her Black Widow, didn't I? Have their little back and forth. It's genuinely badass. It's genuinely awesome and has a lot of weight to it. It has plenty of inspiring moments that I think really do help showcase the characters and what they're going through, while also having plenty of in-your-face moments that really do help emphasize how just stacked the deck is against our heroes, as they are very much straight, as they can't get in, as the rest of the universe is fully aware of what's going on Earth. They're just not helping, and likewise now they are stuck on Earth with this zombie Scarlet Witch who can literally reshape reality to her whim, and she wants the power of the Infinity Stones for herself so she can heal the world. So it does emphasize just how fucked everything is. But this still carries with it the oh shit factor that is prevalent throughout the entirety of the Marvel Zombies miniseries. Because despite all these set pieces that you would associate with the MCU, the heroes lose. The bad guy wins. Wanda got to the Infinity Hulk. She got the powers of the Infinity Stones. She tricked Kamala into helping her. And while I still question why Kamala had to be the one who had to be the conduit or whatever, I guess again maybe it's because of her light powers. I don't freaking know. Maybe it's because she has the cosmic bangle. I don't know. Regardless, the heroes lost. And the ending emphasizes that while there is still something left ultimately what Kamala wanted was not what she got. She wanted a healed world. She wanted her friends back. And in a way, she did get those things back. But considering that the last thing she saw before the episode ended, it's clear that whatever reality she's living in is a lie. This is wrong. The people that she's having boba with are not there. And surrounding her are not these happy citizens now living their lives again. It's the undead. There is still evil in this world. They did not heal the world. Whatever Wanda did, it did not heal anything. All it did was seem to put Kamala into her own little Lotus Eater machine. So it's a big WTF, and it leaves you asking so many questions. Did the heroes make it out okay? Were they saved because of what Kamala did? What happened to the rest of the universe? Is the entire world fucked? Are the zombies is something still alive? Who was that person at the end? Is it someone I recognized? Was it someone that we've seen before and I just didn't recognize them? Was it Riri brought back to life? I don't No, there is so many questions that are left there, and it all comes together with the build-up and payoff to the story. Because again, going back to the set pieces in this episode that remind you of the MCU, all those things are in place that to make a very epic and grand finale. But at the same time, because the deck is so stacked against the heroes, when things go wrong, they go very wrong. People die left and right. Blade is just wiped out, basically eliminating him from this universe. The remaining heroes are overwhelmed by the zombie hordes and are seconds from death. And the only one who has any Lua left in her finally breaks. It's sad, but it's also very human and understandable. Kamala has been living in this world for 5 years, surrounded by the undead, and the only reason that she could bear with those 5 years was because she had people on her side, people she loved and cared about, and they gave her hope. They allowed her to keep waking up every morning, going out and just surviving. That's what helped her, and yet, thanks to this misguided escapade, and I am going to call it misguided because it ended for nothing, because it wound up with nothing, because it basically ended in failure. Because of this misguided escapade, those same people died, and the more she continued on and on, the more people died. For new friends, loved ones, any other warriors who believed in her mission of trying to save the world. All of them gave their lives so that Kamala could achieve her slim to bubkiss dream of being able to save the world. And yet, by the end, there's nothing. The very people that Kamala was going to go ask for help, she basically shut her down and told her no. And now she has almost nothing left. The only reason she keeps fighting is because that's the slimmest of slim chances that they could heal something. And even that ends in failure, as Wanda is able to break through their forces, kill more of their numbers, and finally get right up to the Infinity Hulk. And she just absorbs all the energy, and ultimately, when Kamala is basically shown that no matter what she chooses, that they'll all lose, she just gives up. And it's a very human reaction, because in the face of overwhelming odds, not everyone can rise against them. And I know I don't like saying that, because I am a firm believer that there's always another way, that there's always there's always hope. Sometimes you have to take sometimes there's no black and white choice, admittedly, but there's always a way to keep moving forward. But the thing is, Kamala has taken on the weight of the world, and she just broke her back. She couldn't keep going. And ultimately, she went with the one thing that she thought would be able to save everyone, and she sided with Wanda. It's tragic and scary, and what happens afterwards when the two of them channel the power of the Infinity Stones makes you go, what the hell? And even when everything goes, when Kamala wakes up in her perfect little fantasy world, you don't know what happened. Because it just feels wrong. It still feels wrong. Even seeing Kamala with her friends again, it just something doesn't feel right. And you're just waiting for that other shoe to drop. But even with the reveal that the world that she's in is a lie, and that there are still zombies around, we're still left questioning what the heck's going on. Where is she? Why is she seeing all this? Is she in a fantasy world, or is she in the real world with a filter overlaid through it? Which would make sense, because it's a Scarlet Witch, but they had the power of the Infinity Stones on their side. So why is she seeing it like this? And it raises too many questions. And if the world has been changed like that, why is there still someone that's fighting and trying to wake Kamala up? It raises so many questions, and by the end, you're left wondering what the hell is going on. And it leads to an honestly very intense finale that leaves you just very uncomfortable, because you have no idea what the hell happened. The bad guy won, but what did that entail? What were the consequences? We don't know, and it's going to kill us if we find out. And I know there's going to be a season 2. There are talks of a season 2, and if there is not a season 2, I will be pissed. But the fact that they ended it on this note, it definitely knows how to grab at the viewer's attention and just leave them asking all the right questions and wanting to know what happens next. So, yeah, as a finale, I think it works. But for the series overall, I think season 1 of Marvel Zombies is pretty good to okay, somewhere in that range. I'm not gonna again. In many respects, I do appreciate what it is, and I do like seeing the MCU filtered through the Marvel Zombies timeline. It's actually pretty disturbing to see all these familiar faces and locations filtered through this zombie world. And in some regards, I like that. Like I said, I'm a sucker for alternate universe stories, and I love seeing all the different ways the Marvel Zombies universe twists the lore of the MCU. Sorry, digesting stuff. And so seeing how familiar faces that we know from one continuity are changed in this continuity is very interesting. I liked seeing how Shang-Chi and Co. developed in this world and how they managed to survive. I liked seeing the raft be turned into a city on the water as we see that Baron Zemo used it to basically help whatever survivors were left. It was interesting to see Kamala and her friends trying to survive in New York. And likewise, I loved seeing the different set pieces surrounding this world. The Valley of the Broken Gods, seeing zombie Namor and his cohorts, this world's version of New Asgard, which in this case was more true to the original Asgard. Even seeing the survivors from the original Marvel Zombies episode set up in Kamar-Taj, and as a further consequence, to see this world's Hulk be changed and altered by taking on the full power of the Infinity Stones. That is awesome, and I love seeing that. And likewise, having the Scarlet Witch be the villain is an even creepier factor, because going back to the main MCU, when Wanda wants to be a scary bitch, she can be. WandaVision showcased Wanda as a character that, if she wanted to, she could twist the world to whatever she wanted. And in WandaVision, she did that, and people suffered for it. Now, she ultimately undid what she did in that series by setting Westview free, but there were still lasting consequences, as by the end of that series she lost her children, not her real children, but ultimately they were still people she cared about. And then by the end she took Agatha Harkness's copy of the Darkhold, and the Darkhold corrupted her mind even further and pushed her to do even more disturbing things to try and get back what she lost, i.e. her kids. Wanda is a character who is burdened with such unimaginable power, but also with so much tragedy. And now to suddenly have this person in the zombie universe, it's actually terrifying, because even if we believe the Scarlet Witch in this continuity, and that she was able to repair her mind using her reality warping powers, that still means that she's broken, because she was broken at one point. And even when she was a zombie, there was still clearly enough of Wanda up there, because going back to the original What If episode, when Vision wound up sacrificing himself so that the heroes could have some kind of a chance of curing the world with the Mind Stone, she was pissed. She actually went out and attacked the group just because she was so angry. And I don't mean that she wanted to eat them. She actively assaulted them. She wanted them dead before they were infected. She was angry. So there was still clearly enough of Wanda up there. So again, imagine this. You've been infected with a zombie virus. You have little of yourself left up here. And then suddenly the one remaining constant in your life, the one person who would never abandon you even when you lost your mind, suddenly dies. And suddenly the little bit of you that's still up there realizes your situation. You'd break too. And it makes sense why Wanda is still unhinged here, combined with the trauma that she has sustained both from the main MCU and here, because obviously a lot of things coincide between this reality and the main MCU. Clearly, combined with how twisted her mind was because of the zombie virus, you could argue she's even more unhinged, because this Wanda, while being intelligent like the zombies of the Marvel Zombies comic books, she is just as unhinged as her Darkhold corrupted Prime counterpart. As she is more than willing to sacrifice people to get what she wants. She is willing to let people die just so that she can get her proper pawns in place. She is willing to trick people and lie. And if you do not listen to her, she will force you to listen. She is uncontrollable, unhinged, and in many respects a true monster, caring very little for anything, because ultimately she believes that if she gets what she wants, it won't matter anyway, right? She'll fix everything, so she can do whatever the hell she wants here, and that's just terrifying. A villainess like that is genuinely something you don't want. Is genuinely someone you want to avoid, and I think that she makes for a good contrast in the Marvel Zombie series. With that said, I feel another problem, but again, well, that is a good factor. Another factor that helps make this, I think, still keeps the series entertaining, is again the oh shit factor. Because again, by virtue of this being an alternate universe, they are more free to just kind of break the rules, so to speak. It's not just the fact that this is a horror setting; it's the fact that people are actively that we see familiar characters in this horror setting, and as a result, every episode someone dies. These are characters that in one timeline you swear would be fine. After all, they're superheroes. They're the main characters. They're always going to make it out okay. And yet in this show, many of them die. They're overrun by zombies. They're ripped apart. They're slain, vaporized. There is nobody who will make. There is a very good chance that anybody could be next on the chopping block. And by the end, we are still unsure of who made it out alive by the end of everything. Because again, because of the questionable state that we ended the series on, there is just so many questions left unanswered, and it's by the end you just know it just does not feel right, and that uncomfortable feeling permeates the entire series, knowing that anybody could die next, and it's good. I like that, and I think that makes for a genuinely good show. And again, another thing I like is the human factor here. While the show, in my opinion, does have a bit of pacing issues, I'll get to that when I talk about the problems, we do have enough moments here and there where we see characters reacting to the situation they're in. Kamala, of course, gets a good chunk of them because she's the main character, and the series kicks off with her and her friends going on a mission to try and save the world, and then, well, Kamala ends up being the only survivor, but we do end up seeing people's reactions to just, living in this world. And when we get to episode 2, when Kamala, Yelena, and the Red Guardian get to the raft, we do have a moment where Yelena and the Red Guardian have to remember. Oh yeah, and Blade, of course. Where they have a moment where Yelena and Alexei have to take a moment to remember Melina, since she sacrificed her life so they would have a chance. And then likewise, when we get to episode 3, it's the Red Guardian's turn to mourn doubly so, as Yelena, his only remaining kin, is now dead as well, and he has to bear with that. And then by the end of that episode, he bites the dust, and so Kamala is left carrying the weight of 4 losses on her head, as not only did she lose her friends, but Yelena and the Red Guardian, whom she considered close allies and teammates. It's sad, it's tragic, but it all works, but it all comes together to genuinely show you a human side of things that I think is nice. That I think is genuinely nice, and it does. And in some regard, the fact that these people do still have others that rely on them and that they consider friends, does make their mission feel that much more worth fighting for. Because I want by the end of everything, I want to see Kamala and Co. win. I want them to have some semblance of peace by the end, even if they can't fix the world. They at least deserve a break, and that's what they want. And that's ultimately what they're fighting for. Just peace. That's what they want. Even if they can't fix everything, you really do just want to see them. You just really want to see them happy. And again, it's that drive for happiness that made Kamala do what she did in the end. So I like the human factor in that regard. So, and of course, the gore. There's plenty of gore to be had here, and I'm normally averse to gore, but in this one, I think it's honestly fine. It's cartoony, so it doesn't feel as realistic, I guess. But like I said, this show really does push the TVMA rating, so they does allow them to basically get a little more gruesome than they could in other MCU projects. So I'll give you that one. With that said, the reason why I think this show kind of falls into the pretty good category is because of 2 major factors that do hold it back, in my opinion. The first is the pacing. Again, so one of the problems that I had as early as the first episode was that this continuity does fully expect you to get to know these characters beforehand, before throwing them into this reality. On the one hand, it's good. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine to do, because as we've established, this is an alternate universe story, and part of the appeal of it is to see characters that we normally recognize from the main MCU timeline filtered through this reality and seeing how it changes them. The problem is, however, is that for the most part, whenever they introduce these characters, they really do. They try and over rely on the whole idea of that you already know who these characters are, and as a result, we don't really get a chance to see them kind of basically settle into the world that they're living in. And and I'm not going to say that happens for all the characters. We do have there are characters here and there that do have time to allow themselves to breathe and be properly introduced, like with Shang-Chi and his friends, and likewise even seeing New Asgard. I liked how we were introduced to that one. But when it comes down to like the main characters like Spider-Man, Scott Lang, Kamala, the Red Guardian, all of these are characters that you're expected to know beforehand. And on the one hand, that is a benefit, because this is technically this is basically a what-if continuation of the MCU. As in this reality, everything in the MCU was the same up until the events of Ant-Man and the Wasp, as that was the point of divergence. So clearly there is still some connections. But then likewise, the characters that were introduced after that movie have basically been changed in ways that we don't expect. Again, I was okay with it with Shang-Chi, because in his case we did get a proper introduction for him to see him living in this world, and how he and Katie basically had to deal with now living in a zombie-infested world, and Shung's secret now being revealed to everybody. But the thing is, again, we didn't have that moment for characters like Kamala, Kate Bishop, or Riri. All three of those characters are people that we were introduced to that we were introduced to post Endgame. And unfortunately, we don't really see the moment for them where they become the characters that we know. We don't see the moment when Riri decides she wants to emulate Iron Man. We don't see the moment where Kate decides she needs to follow in Hawkeye's footsteps and take up the bow and arrow. We don't even see the moment when Kamala gets her bangle, as all we really get from her is that her grandmother sent her the bangle, and that's it. We don't see the moment when she awakens her powers, or how she reacts to them, and how she has to adapt to using them in the zombie-infested world. It's just, she already has them, and we're just supposed to be okay with it because, hey, we recognize her from the main MCU, so clearly we should be fine with her here, and I find that to be a problem. And again, while I love how intense the show is, the pacing really does kind of falter. As while we do have plenty of good character moments, there's not a lot of quiet moments to be had. There are quiet moments scattered throughout, of course, and they are good moments, but the show really does want to amp up how intense and basically brutal this world is. And as a result, it goes from one plot point to the next, and it does kind of it makes it a little hard to get fully invested when the plot's just always moving. And I understand, and before you say, well, isn't that kind of the way it is with any movie? While there are quiet moments, they're just scattered throughout, and they don't last long enough in my opinion, to allow you time to breathe. They allow us enough time to get to know the characters, and I do appreciate them for that, as there is good character interaction with them, and has plenty of good character moments with good writing. It's just that they don't last long enough to allow the characters some breathing room. And as such, by the time the action starts up again, it doesn't feel like we've actually had a moment to, calm down, get our bearings, and get everything in line. It just feels like we just sat down, and now we're being told, okay, back up and get back up. We gotta get running again. And that's a problem in my eyes. I think that is a major problem. And so as a result, that does kind of hamper my enjoyment of the show as well. And the second factor that ultimately kind of brings the show down for me a little, it's an MCU project. And that is both a positive and a negative in my opinion. On the one hand, this show has all of the set pieces and trademarks that you would associate with an MCU film. Quirky characters, some humorous writing as they interact with one another, intense action scenes, big-ass climactic moments, heroes rallying up to fight for the greater good and all that stuff. And all of that is good. I will not deny that. But I am not going to lie, when they try to establish this continuity as the horror continuity it is, these elements kind of clash a little. Because the whole point of the Marvel Zombies universe is that it's a zombie apocalypse with superhero elements. To use the original Marvel Zombies as reference, when we were first introduced to the Marvel Zombies universe in the comics, it was shown as a rather horrific idea, Again, how we were introduced to it was the ultimate Mr. Fantastic was tricked into venturing into that universe by his zombified counterpart, and basically the world he was presented with was a horrifying visage, as every superpower being in this universe was a zombified monster, and he was basically outnumbered. There was no hope of salvation. And while the remaining members of the Ultimate Fantastic Four came to help Reed and help him and a few other survivors escape back into the Ultimate Universe, it still felt like this was a whole other ball game. And when the story of that universe was continued in the Marvel Zombies miniseries, it still felt like a rather horrifying concept. And admittedly, there was humor to be found in the series, as the main focus of the Marvel Zombies comics were on the actual Marvel Zombies, as the story mainly focused on them as they were still trying to figure themselves out and try and test their limits, what they could and couldn't do, alongside alongside an ongoing plot where Galactus was arriving on Earth, and they basically went, oh, he's new food, let's get him, and they basically had to put their minds together to try and find a way to take Galactus down. But even with those superhero elements in place, the story was still a zombie story, and that's what I thought made it work. It felt like a zombie story, but with elements of the superheroic in there. It helped make the story unique while still never losing track of what it was. Even its sequel, Marvel Zombies 2, remembered that. And every subsequent revisit to the Marvel Zombies universe always carries with it that same factor. Depending on the story, the superheroic elements can overwhelm the zombie elements, but ultimately the zombie stories are at the forefront. But this story, unfortunately, kind of favors the superheroic over the horror aspect. And I'm not saying that to say that the horror aspect is neglected, because they do still showcase just how hopeless this world is. But at the same time, the major plot of this story isn't focusing on the zombies and what they're doing and how people are reacting to try and just cope and live in this world. The story is about a group of people who are trying to save the world, like you would see in any MCU project. There's a big bad to be had in the form of the zombie Scarlet Witch. There's an end goal. We have heroes uniting and trying to stand up to it. And now ultimately, while this does differ from most MCU projects by virtue of having the bad guy win in the end, and honestly the ending with Kamala as she's unsure what the hell's going on is a big WTF factor that definitely leans right into the horror aspect. And in my opinion, that is definitely a great way to end the show, or at least the season. But at the same time, everything leading up to this has felt like something that you would see in a basically a Marvel project. It's grand, it's epic, and it's in scale. We got people quipping here and there, which on the one hand I can be okay with, because when you're in a situation like the Marvel Zombies one, you need a little bit of levity and humor to try and ease the tension and keep your nerves from getting shot. But on the flip side of things, that can really take away from the gravitas and seriousness of everything when you have all these monsters going around and people are just making jokes and quipping, and that's a problem. And that's a problem that unfortunately is prevalent throughout the entire miniseries. It doesn't, now again, these factors don't ruin the show in my opinion, because ultimately I do think that Marvel Zombies Season 1 is pretty good. It's decent. It's decent to pretty good. I can safely say that I enjoyed myself while watching this miniseries, and it definitely left me with a lot of questions that I do want to see answered. But unfortunately, I don't think this is the best thing that the MCU has produced. It is still grand. It's still grand. It has a great shock value. It's grim. It's dark. And it has plenty of fun characters and plenty of good character moments that do make you want to keep going. And by the end, you do want our heroes to come out okay. But ultimately, I do believe that there are factors in this series that hold it back. Again, the pacing feels rushed in a few areas. It doesn't feel like it takes enough breaks, and the elements, and ironically, the elements that tie this show to the MCU are kind of what hold it back. And I'm not saying that those elements need to be taken away, but far from it. Again, this is a what if to the MCU, so you do want to see elements from the titular timeline be featured here. It's just that I think that they should have leaned more into the horror while having elements of the MCU be thrown in. I'm not saying that they should have been overtaken, but at the same time, I feel like that they should have that they should have known how to focus on one factor over another. I'm not saying the other factors should have been ignored, but I feel like it needed to have it needed to be focused on a little less than it was, is what I'm saying. But that's just my opinion. If you disagree with me, that's fine. And again, I'm not saying that Marvel Zombies is bad. I do think at the end of the day, it's a pretty good show. I do think it's creepy. It definitely it leans into the shock factor more than anything. The action is pretty damn good. It is pretty harrowing to see all these familiar faces in the main MCU be put into such a horrifying scenario. And again, even the ending leaves you with so many questions and makes you wonder what the hell is going to happen next when or if the series is picked up. So, on the whole, while I do think it has its issues, Marvel Zombies I do think is at least worth a watch. And the fact that it's been released around Halloween is definitely the perfect time to give it a shot. So if you haven't watched the series yet, I highly recommend it. Though odds are if you're watching this, you already have. So there you go. But that's pretty much all I have to say. When Marvel Zombies continues, or if Marvel Zombies continues, I will vlog about it again. But till that day comes, I thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and if you enjoy seeing me rant and rave about other nerdy shit that only matters to me, you can check out my regular Friday vlogs where I'm still looking at the Pokemon movies, or you can actually look at my annual October vlogs, as currently I'm looking at Team Star Kid's Hatchetfield plays, with the next play on the lineup being Nerdy Prudes Must Die. So if you're interested in seeing more of me, you can check those out. But if not, I thank you for joining me on this retrospective, and as always, I'll see you next time. Take care.